Hey there folks, and welcome to this video. This one here is a general notice where I'll kick off the week by talking about the weekend, look a bit further back, and talk about something that's on my mind. You can find this week's one linked in the description section down below. Let's start off by talking about looking at the week ahead. Rally on 400 is likely to happen over the course of this week. I didn't do a stream for last week. I also, what else? Have another stream that I never actually ran for it, which was one that was actually labelled. So that's going to have to run at some point. But also 400 I'm going to potentially, I don't know, enjoy some old rallying games. What I'll say is, in last week's event, I managed to pick up another third place. This time beating out Marinos, but Doomskull managed to get ahead of me for second place. Solid drive from somebody who's got the pace to be up there with us over the course of the season, and definitely has shown it with some of the timesheets that have been set alight. Lou ended up picking up quite a comfortable win in the end, which, well, could be that for the title. Depending on if Lou does Argentina or not, I have to do everything in my power to try and get that championship. But looking ahead to this week, we have got F1 in Qatar. We've also got F1 now releasing for the game what should be the final track that we know of, Jeddah. And I'll probably do a video on that sometime in the next couple of days. But it's getting to that point of the year where F1's got 3 night races in the Middle East to round off the calendar. So F1's 3 races, 1 message, perhaps a bit more powerful. But we'll hear those kinds of discussions over the course of the Grand Prix week. Got the WRC finale, the Forum 8 Achi Rally Monza. I'm looking forward to that one. Between Evans and Ogier for the 2nd year in a row. Could we see some snow potentially intervening? It's less likely to, given how we are earlier in the year now for the rally, for the World Rally Championship finale. And will Ogier make it number 8? And will he be the first number 1 in the WRC choose your own number era to take the championship? Because you have to remember, the first time they were able to do that was when Ogier was at Citroën, and that was in 2019. Who was the champion that year? It was Oyt Tanak. Sorry, I'm just trying to get an eyelash out of my eye at the moment while I'm talking about this. So we could talk about Monza for quite a bit as well. Yeah, review and preview for both WRC and also for F1. It's going to be quite a busy week. Even seen some headlines over McLaren in Autocar that have been quickly rebutted by McLaren saying that they're not selling up to Audi. Might cover that at some point, but at that point I'm getting more than 7 videos for, well, 7 days. Looking back, over 100 people watched my review for the Sao Paulo Grand Prix, which is very interesting. Thanks to everybody who tuned into that one. And again, another 40 or so people watching the Re-Races 1 display. That's always really good to see. It's really nice to see people tuning into that, because I think it's still very important, even if it has become largely processional in Formula 1. But I'm going to talk about something from the race, as in the Grand Prix, for my topic of the week. And it is that move that Max Verstappen did on Lewis Hamilton, well, to defend from Lewis Hamilton, going through, I guess, is it turn 4? Technically turn 3, I don't know. Around into Lagos. Where Hamilton was on the outside, Verstappen didn't make the corner, forced Lewis to not make the corner even more. And it was deemed no investigation necessary by the stewards. We still haven't seen Verstappen's camera, which is weird, because these get downloaded immediately by F1's media lot, then get passed over to the stewards. We saw that with Monza. Like, after they were out, the day after, they had all of them up on social media. I, personally, and I'm going to check as I'm recording this, so I could prove myself wrong very quickly, haven't seen any angles yet from Verstappen's onboard. And I wonder if that's for some of the kind of spectacle of it all. Because I definitely haven't seen it going through. So, what that could mean is that, well, there's not going to be anything seen by Mercedes, who would probably want to lodge a protest on it, because if that is something that is penalisable, which it potentially could be, especially if we see Verstappen to deliberately not try and make the corner, especially if we can also get trace of telemetry, including steering input, throttle and brake input, that could drop Verstappen behind Bottas. And this leads me on to conversation I've been seeing going on. Jimmy Broadbent said, well, it doesn't matter if it's Verstappen or Hamilton on Verstappen. The fact that that could be deemed no further action sets precedents. And we've seen lots of weird precedents set over the course of this past weekend. Such as where the limit is in regards to what could be changed under Parc Fermé. I mean, it seems pretty clear-cut in terms of if your part fails the scrutiny ring or not. But Red Bull's been allowed to change his rear wing a couple of times, and Mercedes is annoyed that it hasn't. But at the same time, Red Bull didn't fail any tests, so I guess that is kind of clear-cut. In addition to that, Mercedes deciding to clamp down on people touching their cars. Vettel wasn't in the past. Obviously, it was against the rules. But Mercedes have managed to get Red Bull fined 50k for it. Whereas Red Bull, they're going to be paying Verstappen's fee. Don't think Verstappen's going to be paying it. Which, well, doesn't seem like much, but in the world of the politicking that we see in F1, yeah. And then the forcing off the track. I was surprised. I was a bit surprised by that. But Verstappen getting a black and white flag for blocking. You know, the Verstappen rule, that's a term that we've seen a few times thrown up in F1. One of them was the thing that Verstappen got the black and white flag for, the weaving on the straight. Another one was for kind of the way that he got into the sport, with little experience in higher levels of Formula. I think it was Euro F3 was the highest he did. Didn't get onto the F1 circus before being in F1. And they've kind of closed that loophole. And in addition to that, there's now a kind of Verstappen rule in regards to touching the car. And potentially a one for forcing another driver off the track, even if you yourself don't make the corner. And I don't know. I think there is a clear thing to say precedent has been broken. Because the way that F1 usually works is, don't imagine that there's AstroTurf on the outside, imagine that is gravel or a wall. And Verstappen, I would argue, drove a bit differently, because there was runoff there. I mean, we could talk about Portimao, we could talk about Imola as examples of it. We could potentially talk about Silverstone and Monza as well. But then, in Silverstone, neither of them backed out. In Brazil, Hamilton backed out because he was going to be the one with something to lose. In the end, Lewis won. But will Mercedes file a protest? We've seen protests and counter-protests and everything like that lodged weekend after weekend. I mean, look at Canada 2019 with Vettel and Ferrari. I reckon Mercedes will try to weigh it up when they have a look at what goes on in telemetry. Because at the end of the day, what Verstappen did was very unpopular. And I don't care what the reason is. For somebody driving on track, you don't boo them. And it's different when it comes to like behaviour off the track. I mean, for example, I think the behaviour of someone like Nikita Mazepin is, you look at the actions he did last December with groping a woman and that going onto his Instagram, deplorable. Especially given other allegations against him over the past. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think Verstappen should have been booed. I don't think that's a hot take either. But it is weird to see the amount of people who have Been saying that time and again with Lewis getting booed, only to get attacked seemingly by Verstappen fans. Or anti-Merc people, moreover. Now suddenly seeing that same crowd go, oh, they shouldn't boo people when Verstappen gets it. It's not one rule for some and another rule for others. It was dangerous driving by Verstappen. I haven't come to expect any less. But what I do hope is that the gap at the end of the season is more than the points gain that Verstappen has from Spa and from the collective of F1 sprints. And if Lewis wins, then he had those changes, those races which were not races according to F1 fans, as a kind of handicap, and still manages to win the title. But at the end of the day, whoever gets the title deserves it. I think Verstappen still has changes he has to make to be a proper great of F1, but then at the same time, I don't think Lewis was at that point when he was in 2014. I think it only really came about 18-19. I really think that's when Lewis properly cemented himself as an F1 great. Because you can win 2, 3, 4 titles and not leave a mark on the sport. Lewis has now. Verstappen, he's close. This is what, his 7th season? He's still doing moves like that. I don't care if you say that's his first World Championship battle. That doesn't mean anything to me. What does is the way that you drive the car and the kind of respect that you treat others with. Off the track, him and Hamilton, they seem to have got a lot more respect for each other, or at least publicly facing a lot more respect for each other than we've seen in the past. That kind of war of words that we saw after things like Silverstone and Monza, that seems to have gone away a bit now. They're more open to openly congratulating each other again, or at least back to where it was when they weren't battling for a world title. I think that's been Verstappen making that move, because Hamilton seems to have been able to say the same things time and again, because Hamilton is at that point. Until the defences that we saw yesterday, I thought Verstappen was at that point too. I think he still has some points to prove. I think he's close. I really do. But I don't think he's there just yet. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching, and as I said before, for that driving on track yesterday, I don't think he deserved the booing he got. I really don't. Thank you so much, and bye-bye for now.